Good morning, Wellington. Oh man, I'm going to do that again because Christchurch was more awesome. Good morning, Wellington. Good morning. Much better. Really excited to be here today. My name's John Holt. I'm the co-founder and chairman of Kiwi Landing Pad. Hopefully you've mostly heard of us. We're based in San Francisco. Delighted to be joined today by our speakers who we'll introduce shortly, and Sian Simpson, our community manager from San Francisco. Welcome. When you build a company from the ground up and successfully exited it, you realise there's nothing quite like the feeling from a business perspective. But building any business is hard work. It's addictive, fun, and sometimes even financially rewarding. Landing Pad's all about fueling Kiwi aspiration and innovation into Silicon Valley, the hottest hotbed of disruption and innovation on the planet. Today, we're going to try something different. We're going to jam. What that means is after the intro piece, we're really not going to have any slides. Anybody object to no slides? Didn't think so. So this is really all about, I guess, what we've found over the last few years, which is, you know, having a space to land in San Francisco is kind of useful, but really where the value is a community. And that's how we actually are going to accelerate learning and development of this ecosystem faster, have more fun, learn faster, and achieve more. So today's really about the community. It's about all of you. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about us. And it's really fantastic through the sponsors that we have as part of the Landing Pad in New Zealand specifically, that we've been able to bring over 4 fantastic people who have done amazing things, and we'll talk to you briefly about what they've done. In fact, I'm going to get that to do them to do that themselves shortly. So that really it's not about us taking any sort of perspective of being experts. All we know is what we've heard, what we've listened to, what we've seen over the last 5 years running Kiwi Landing Pad. And there are literally hundreds of entrepreneurs and supporters of entrepreneurial systems in New Zealand have been through the Landing Pad. Plus, we've developed a fantastic community of people in San Francisco who love New Zealand, want to help, and between that, we really think we can do something special in helping everybody achieve their dreams around building that business, taking it global, and hey, maybe even selling it for a bunch of money. So, to kick it off, we're going to tell you a little bit more about what Landing Pad's doing. Once again, I'd like to thank the sponsors of today that have made it possible for us. Bank of New Zealand, been a long-time sponsor of Landing Pad in New Zealand, New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, who we work with very closely, and thanks especially to Biz Dojo today for allowing us to host here. Fantastic. So thanks for taking the time to attend. All I encourage is that you get the burning questions out of your head up into the environment here. We're prepared to answer anything. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Really utilise what we've been able to bring together for you today, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Sian, who's going to tell you a little bit about Kiwi Landing Pad, what we're looking for today, and also kind of a big piece for us, which is Kiwi culture versus US culture and etiquette. You know, there's a lot of things we've learned over the last few years we'd like to share around what to do and maybe what not to do when you hit the ground in San Francisco eventually.
Who here, out of curiosity, has been to the Landing Pad in the last year? Awesome. Okay, cool. So you know what we're about. I'm going to skip the landing pad piece. You know, soft landing, basically land and expand, take a desk, we plug you into the community, and then basically figure out how we can help you grow your business around the world. I guess I'm pretty focused on community. I am pretty agnostic where you land as long as you tap into the community at some point. Basically, growing a community and having access to a community, you realize sort of your network becomes a value of X, and then you can basically tap into anywhere in the world, which is exciting. American etiquette. For starters, let's not be shy. Let's do an example. So when I landed in America, I was very sort of, I didn't like talking about myself. I think self-promotion is a thing that Kiwis struggle with. And so I attached myself to my friends. So how they described me to people, and they get really excited about it, is sort of, I was just like, I'm that, and then that's a really easy jump to make, to be like, okay, I can do that, you know? If she's gonna do, like, sell me that way, then I can just attach as long as it's correct. Let's see how an American does it. Cool experiment.
Who do I want to pick on right now? I kind of want to introduce one of you randomly. Everyone, this is Shawn Simpson. She is an amazing, beautiful woman hailing from the land of the long white cloud. She is a adventurer, a entrepreneurial spirit, and a community leader who can help you with your transition from New Zealand to the American market. She is inspired by creatives and people trying to achieve their dreams. And she's a super smarty with a lot of global knowledge that you should take advantage of. Everyone, this is Shawn.
A lot more excitable than I am ever. Don't be shy, and Americans attach themselves to people who aren't shy. Also, but be humble. Silicon Valley and San Francisco is a pace change. It's pretty intense. I think it takes a little bit to go into market. A lot of you, well, I guess Wellington is a little bit more of a global traveler thing. But it's intense, you know, you have to digest a lot of information. There is a lot of homeless people. I think the contrast between rich and poor is very great. And I think as Kiwis, where we have a pretty great lifestyle and a pretty great ecosystem, it can be challenging. Next is respecting people's time. So do you really need to have an hour meeting, or can you just take a 20-minute meeting and, you know, make your ask, get to the point? We're really busy. We usually sort of run back to back. I think if I hand over to some of you guys, you can sort of explain what you see and how you run your days.
Yeah, I guess getting to that point in terms of like San Francisco, what's the pace of things? You know, people are generally just booked back to back all day long. And so, yeah, just in terms of like punctuality, you know, starting, ending meetings on time, I think that stuff ends up being really important for people, because if that doesn't happen, then they're going to be late to their next meeting, and then everything kind of unravels from there. Keeping good pace on things when you're there trying to do business. Assume everyone's like has hard stops at every end of every meeting, and that they're running off to the next thing, and they're trying to like manage email in between, and that's probably going to be a pretty accurate assumption. So, you know, that's kind of how people operate in San Francisco.
One of the trends that we've seen and the feedback that we've had from some of the many introductions we make is that sometimes Kiwis leave it up to 2 weeks to reply to some of the introductions. I would say probably like a 24-hour, maximum 48-hour turnaround is okay. Anything longer than that, it's kind of not really worth people's time. These guys, from my experience with them, are really great at being like, hey, great meeting. These are the 5 actions I took away from it, and this is what I want from you, or vice versa. And I think getting into that flow is actually really valuable, because then you take away a lot from your meetings, you understand what is required of you, and then you also don't have to try remember a lot of stuff. Punctuality and timekeeping. So no one really likes anyone who's late. Obviously, if your meeting runs back to back, you can't do it, but I guess just don't be late. Also, you know, if you've got an hour meeting, but you don't need the hour meeting, potentially if you're actually meeting with someone who is really busy, maybe cut it short. I think a thing that we've noticed is that Kiwis kind of talk around things. So this is an example from yesterday. We talk like, sometimes I think this product is kind of good and I think you should kind of use it because it might be great one day, or it might be great now. And for people in America, they're like, well, if it's not great now, why would I not use it? So some of that language, and I think that directly relates to meetings, it's like, what do you want? How can they help? It can be kind of feel transactional for us, but I think that's just the nature of doing business in a highly competitive market. Preparations, obviously use Google and LinkedIn to your advantage. It's always great knowing what you're walking into, and you know what people are about. Have a mission and a message. So a lot of people I've noticed have landed in San Francisco and they're like, cool, we're here. Who are you going to introduce us to? And I'm like, wow, if you look at like the communities of these people on the panel, and then you look at the landing pad community, I think, which is upwards of 2,000 people now, there's a lot of people. And then I guess times personal networks. It's kind of like a needle in a haystack. So know who you want to target. Have your business model canvas down so you know who your distributors are, your resellers, those kinds of things, your customers. If someone comes to me and they're like, these are my 5 customers, do you know anyone there? I'm like, oh, I'll try figure it out. I'll try find someone for you so I can introduce you. And then on message, so I'm happy to introduce someone to basically anyone in my network if I know what they're going to talk about. So have a mission, have a message, and Americans really jump on board with people's missions. And the last one is my favorite, so connections and networking.
I think when people think about networking, they think that it has to be really boring and stiff and not fun. And I think it's totally the opposite of that. It's about finding really awesome people that will not only become your friends, but also become your allies in your entrepreneurial journey or whatever journey you're on at the time. My favorite thing to do after an event, a roadshow like this or a conference, is to go home with that stack of business cards, open a really nice bottle of wine, turn on some great tunes, and spend the next few hours going through and learning about all the people that I just met and finding the ways in which we're all intertwined and connected and figuring out what I can do for them first, and then hopefully in the back of my mind thinking about what they could potentially really help me with in the future. But I think when you change your behavior around things, like when people get a business card, it's like, oh, okay, I got to go log into LinkedIn right now, and I got to go do this thing, and it feels forced. Don't make it forced. Make your networking and business rituals or practices or the most mundane work that you have to do, make it fun somehow. Make some part of that something you look forward to. For me, it's wine. For you, it can be anything.
When I moved to San Francisco, I didn't know anyone, not one person, and now my community there is pretty large. I would say how we run our business and personal networks, they're pretty intertwined, and I think that's actually quite cool. Never sort of discount someone for who you think they are, because you never know who they grew up with or who they might know. So I would say, you know, take coffees and go out for meetings with people, and always put people in your back pocket, because then you can always bring them out. Yeah, you never know who people actually know. So recently have been traveling quite a lot, and so Queenstown on the weekend, it was meant to be sort of like a relaxing catch up on some sleep, but then I woke up on Sunday morning and I had introductions to sort of 3 business people who were all quite cool, and then my day was filled with like breakfast, lunch, and basically dinner with 3 people just from the community of introductions. So I find everywhere in the world, if you start fostering those things, then you know you'll start getting this community. You'll go somewhere, you'll turn up, and you'll just have this sort of family of people that you can link in with. Last thing on this is, I think we all spend a lot of time thinking about capital and money, and I think there's 2 really underutilized forms of currency. One is time, and one is social capital. So I guess a lot of the people here are here because we have really good relationships with them. You know, they really love New Zealand, they're friends, and so they come along.
Y'all picked a good spot to live.
And then I guess time. So time is a great currency, right? It's my favorite thing. I guess what you can do for people. If you take like half an hour out of your day to give something to someone and just help them, you never know when that's going to come back, if it's going to come back, or how that's going to be paid for. So I would say use that to your advantage.
In San Francisco, they definitely start to blend together, and that's partly because everyone's working in the tech industry. So your friends naturally are going to be people that you could end up working with. And so I think you end up taking these meetings with like friends of friends because it's a favor someone asks you to do, and that ends up opening up some other work possibilities. So I think, you know, my policy certainly for like the first like 4 years I was working in San Francisco tech was like any meeting, anytime, anywhere that anyone introduced me to, it's like just kind of pay it forward. And so it gets so intertwined that like one of my friends recently was like, are you swinging by to just say hi and hang out, or to like, do you want to hear the update on the business? And I was like, I think my email response was, I don't even know anymore. So that's kind of how it gets.
I use a little tool called Nimble. It's a social CRM. It aggregates all of those contacts for me. It helps me curate and manage, you know, when I communicate with certain folk inside of that network. And I've also learned to be very blunt in my ask for somebody. So like if I'm going to set up a meeting with someone, I'm preemptively like, this is why I want to meet with you. This is what I want out of it, and this is what I think you're going to get out of it.
I live by my Google Calendar. Like my Google Calendar is stacked full of meetings. If it's dinner at my in-laws or hanging out with friends on a Wednesday, that is in my calendar. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So that's one thing that I do, and my friends make fun of me for, but I definitely do that, and I live and die by my calendar. The other thing that I do, and I love what Miles was saying, I actually use Asana to do this. Asana is a project management or task management tool, if you don't know. And when I meet someone that I think could be beneficial to have in my network, it's not enough to add them to my LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, because I will inevitably forget them, and they will become just one piece of the noise that exists in my social kind of circle. So what I do is I actually will add them to my Asana project list, as a task, as a recurring task to follow up with them every 2 or 3 months.
That's next level.
And I don't necessarily reach out to everyone in my tickler system. I call it a tickler system. That's what, anyway, showing my age.
A sauna and a tickler. I'm not sure what's going on here.
But you know, it does remind me, it brings back up in kind of a push notification way, like, oh, cool, there's that person that I met. Oh, there's this thing that happens to be going on in my life right now where it would be beneficial to reconnect with that person.